G'day, this is Paul from Hill Tech. Before we get into cutting Cooper Turlin's helmet in half, I just thought we'd have a quick chat about the emergency quick release system that his helmet has. And this is because Cooper's obviously had a pretty big crash. He's been knocked out for some time. He woke up in the back of the ambulance, so someone has probably taken his helmet off for him. Might have been his mate, could have been his parents. Hopefully, was the ambulance driver or ambulance personnel. Anyway, and they hopefully would have been aware of the emergency quick release system in his helmet. This helmet's meant to have a little loop here to basically get your finger in there and pull this cheek pad out. And that then means that this helmet will slide off his head, Cooper's head, a lot more easily than if it didn't. And that's a relatively new system, but it's been out for over 10 years, and basically all ambulance or first aiders should be really well aware of that system because of how easy it makes the helmet removal. So when you're next at your next race event or hanging out with your mates, just ask them if they're aware of the system. But yeah, in particular the medical people at your next motocross or enduro race, check to see if they're aware of it, because obviously they should be, and no doubt if you give them a little nudge, they will go and investigate further. If you're looking to upgrade your first aid for your club or for yourself, find out, make sure they're aware of it, they're all over it, because it is a good system. And as I'll show you a little bit later on, it's dead easy once you know how. Now this is an Aero Aviator, an earlier model, and it's got these little finger holds here. Not a hugely self-explanatory system, but nonetheless these little finger holds, pull them and out comes the cheek pads. They're a bit clunky, and hopefully newer aviators are a little bit better system than this one. Now this is a road bike helmet by Arai. Doesn't look like it's got any EQRS system, but when you lift up these little flaps here, it's got these little finger holds which aren't labelled, but nonetheless that's what they are. You put your finger in the loops and pull out those cheek pads. Now this is obviously a Troy Lee SE4. It's got really good little well-marked little finger holds here on both sides. So if someone does notice them, they'll obviously be able to use them quite simply and easily, because they're really well marked, but also a good size. You don't have to muck around with them like some of the others, and that makes a big difference. So when we were investigating how ambulance drivers or ambulance personnel would benefit by the use of our crash severity sensor, the prototype of which I'm holding in my hand, many of them weren't aware of the emergency quick release system. Only 2 of the 7 that we interviewed, 2 of 7 senior MICA ambulance personnel, were aware of the emergency quick release system, which was quite a surprise. And a couple of other first aid companies were also not fully aware of it. And a company such as Gemmagrass in South Australia have now got on board, and they've gone away and updated their systems. They cover karting and motocross and even dirt speedway. So they've realised that they're a little bit behind the times and gone and upgraded their training. But if you're looking to get some training, first aid for motorcyclists in Victor Harbor, they're all over it. They obviously specialise in motorcycle training, and would be the company that I would recommend to go to, because they're quite advanced. They're the only company in Australia, first aid company in Australia, that can do CPR on a rider whilst the helmet's still on. So that's pretty amazing. And finally, I'll just do a little demonstration of how this works. Now, I'm not a first aider, so I'll preface this little instruction with that. And if you're looking to do this, you're best to learn properly through a first aid company. But if you're out in the bush and your mate has had a crash, he's out to it, choking or not breathing, this is one of those cases where a helmet should be removed. Normally a helmet would should stay on until the ambulance personnel arrive. But this helmet, Bell Moto 9 Flex, it's got clearly marked finger holds here on either side. You basically stabilise the helmet, get your fingers in those little finger holds. You pull the cheek pads out. They're quite good, these Bell, because they're held in magnetically. And then see how easily the head or the helmet would come off if obviously it wasn't a dummy that I was using. So that makes it such a simple process as opposed to trying to pull it off. By pulling the helmet apart. A lot of the first aid manuals talk about removing a helmet, and they're always about pulling the helmet apart like this. They're not even talking about grabbing a hold of the chin strap and pulling it apart. So they're really quite backwards in the way they work it, especially with this system being available, and they really should just be taking advantage of it. So go out there and check with the medical people that are supporting your events. Check with your mates. The next time you're renewing your first aid, make sure it encompasses emergency quick release.